Hello, I'd like to talk about this template app here. This is based around a couple of barbers in a barber shop. Is that they can send this app and they can share this app through here by sending it to some of their clients to actually say, why not use the form? We're trying to make it more convenient for you so that it makes it easier to do. So on the front is just a normal blurb, just contacts and things like that. I've got a small inline list here which gives the detail about Abby, and I've got a bit of his information through there, and there's a bit about B. So if there's a third person, they would be added onto that row, and you'd give some information so that they can contact people from the front sheet. And also we've got the location of where the premises are. We've also got a list of their menu, or the list of services that they offer. I'm using a list, sorry, I'm just going to go back into this one here. I'm using a list through here instead of a compact list because that only shows 2 items, and I actually want to show all 3. I want to show what the service is, how much it costs, and what's the duration of that sort of thing. So something like hair dye or highlight colour might take an hour. So they need to make sure that they book a double session to make that occur. We can also use the Thursday if we just go shampoo or something like that, that filters through like that. So we can easily find what we're looking through there. The main point of the app through here, so obviously you'll be doing the styling based on other things there. This one here is based on dates. Now the dates where you actually create them are on the sheet Abby schedule or B schedule, and basically if you want another date, you just take these 2 and you just pull those down, and then it'll populate further down. And the same with the Abby if you'd want. Now if you didn't, I've actually allowed for weekends on some of these, but if you didn't want the weekends, you could just delete those off. So you just delete those so that you didn't actually have to book. But sometimes in something like summer or winter, like in wintertime, in summertime there might be weddings, so suddenly a whole wedding group may need to come and get their hair trimmed in the morning for the wedding in the afternoon, or the wedding's on the Sunday, and so suddenly you're booking on weekends and stuff like that. So it allows for you to do those sorts of things. The same with the lunch periods and things. You can actually be flexible as to when you've got there. So let's say this is Abby down here, and he says he's going to have a lunch from 1 to 1:30. So all he does is click on this. He can actually have a special little code that he puts into this, and a little code that he just puts henna or something like that through to that, and then he just submits that, and then nobody, that time is not available for anybody else, so he's just blocked his lunch break off, and he can go and do that for all the days that he particularly wants in a way. So it's a flexible way of doing it. And when he actually comes and looks at the sheet of the booking, he'll be able to see, that was me, because I just used this bit of coding through here to say what I'm actually doing. What's that one there? Oh, phone. So that really should be, sorry, phone should really come with maybe next to the note. It's doing something weird. That's what I want, a little dark line. So we got the phone number, or maybe actually I think I'd move it over to beyond that one there. Now I have 2 dates on here, and I'll show you why. When you set up the schedule through here, we've actually got the dates coming through here. And if you see in here, this is actually a real date. So it's a date column that comes through. But when it gets passed to the schedule, it stringifies it and makes it it's just a whole load of strings. So if we actually just put a filter, I'm just going to turn that filter off and turn that filter on. If we turn that filter on and we try and sort by that column, see all the dates are wrong. I've got 26th, 29th, 27th, 1st of August. It's all things because it's sorting by the first letter along here. So it's not sorting by date. So I've actually created the date as a duration through here. So if I sort by that, you'll see I can correctly sort these by dates. Now what you want that for is when you've gone past those dates, you actually want to delete those, or you can leave them in this particular column. It doesn't really matter, but you may want to take those and store them somewhere else. From the point of view of the schedule, though, as you really want when somebody comes in and uses the app, you want them to actually see today going forward. Now, I think on my previous app that I was actually building as I was developing this one, I could use today and then go today +1, today +2, today +3, today +4, but the row IDs would change. So therefore, that would change to maybe Tuesday, but the row ID might stay the same. So therefore, I'm getting the wrong data being mixed up and I can get quite a lot of mess. So I don't want to do that. That's why I gave it a hard number date through there, which means that you actually have to go through and actually delete that first row when that date has passed, and then drag some more dates down when you actually want to add some more columns to the end of your thing. Now, you may only want to keep it for about 2 weeks, or you may want to spread it out further than that. Just be aware that you have control over that. So you can actually control how you actually want to display those things. But basically, you want to go from today forward or from tomorrow forward, or because it's a weekend or something like that. So we come through, we have the forms, we get our times, and as soon as we select that time and hit that switch and then submit, that time disappears. Now it comes through onto our second table. So how does this work? When we fill out the form, so let's just go in and actually just look at that form. When we fill out the form, this switch is a Boolean. So it actually creates a Boolean, and that Boolean is matched to that particular time. So this is at 9:30 a.m. So at 9:30 a.m., this form, so we're asking the client to fill out his name, phone number, or, well, we're talking to Barber, so yes, his name, although there's no reason ladies can't go and get their haircut like that, the phone number and the services. So those are the only 3 requirements they need to do, plus the switch and plus submit. So we just get those ones, and they can add the note, and then straight away the user input goes into the 9:30 switch goes into 9:30. And then also the 9:30 column comes across here. Now we're getting data in the background from preset information that's on that sheet. So we're grabbing the date, we're grabbing whom, and that's Abby, or else it's B. We're grabbing the row ID just as a backup. We don't really need it for any of the operations that we're doing. We're grabbing date 2, because date 2 we can actually sort by, so that we can get the oldest dates and the newest dates, so we can organize our information that way, especially if we kind of want to move a lot of that data onto another sheet or onto another spreadsheet altogether. And then we're getting our current date and time of when that booking is made. So when the person makes the booking, we get the timestamp for that. And that's just another convenience that we're doing. And then we've actually got to get the time and actually put that into the time column. Now that is a fixed thing that we're getting through. So every single button coming through here, that one's got to save the 10 o'clock one. That one's got to have, so each one's got to have the appropriate one set to the time that they've actually got, so that the correct information is passed through into the form sheets. And each individual button has to be set up distinctively for what it is. So on an operation that we're doing, it's basically, if we come to the schedule, on the booking, we actually have all of these fields. So we have an 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30, however many we go out to. In this one here, we're going out to 5 o'clock. I could delete that and start again. And so there's only one switch on one of these things per line. So only one is actually operable. So there's a booking at 8:30. Now again, if we've got this now sorted in order. So on the 26th, there's only one at the 8 on the Sunday, but that's gone past, so it's not relevant anymore. For the Monday, we've got a number through here. So we've got about 7. So all of them you'll see are at different times. So those ones all there all pertain to Monday. And then we've got other ones for the Wednesday, and then we've got ones for the Saturday, etc., etc. But when we turn the switch in the form, it then changes that and marks that switch in the particular column that is done by the date. So on the other sheet that we actually have through here, on the Abby schedule, we actually have this one-to-many relationships. So this row looks onto this table here, and it says, go and find me all of the bookings that relate to this row. And these are the bookings through here. And so you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we go through here, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe I've miscounted. That one, I don't know why that's got that double box. It shouldn't have that there. But that's what's actually coming through. So I might need to just clean a bit of data out of here. So that's what's happening. Now, when that switch is done, so I'm matching this column here. So the first column that's critical if you want to build another appointment time, like you can blow all of this away and you can say, it's a music studio and I want to book for the morning or the afternoon each day. So you only actually need 2 columns, so you don't need these half-hour intervals all the way through the day. So you could blow everything all away and you could just have the 2 columns, a morning and an afternoon session. You might have something where you're only booking per day, so the studio or a gymnasium or something is only booked or in an evening time or something like that. So with the booking, you can actually adjust these columns, but you need 3 columns to actually drive it. And the 3 columns, in the bookings, you need the switch column. You need the column that is actually, it's the switch inside the form that is Boolean. So it's yes or no. Then you need another column that looks to that Boolean column there. So what this column here does, if we look at, if we go to the Abby booking and we look at the 8 o'clock one there, that is just a simple switch column. So it's just a Boolean on or off, yes or no. That. So this one, because we have the relationship, we have this relationship of this row with, and we are looking, we have a relationship to via the date. So we're matching the date, which is this row, with Abby bookings, anything that has the same date. And we've got to match multiple. So once we do that, we've got multiple bookings, which are all these switches through here. On each individual one, this one is a lookup. And if we do, this one looks up on the other one, the 8 o'clock switch. This one looks up the relationship and the 9 o'clock switch on that page. So if the 9 o'clock switch gets turned on when that form gets filled out, this gets triggered. So this one then copies across the Boolean. And so the third thing that makes this run is that we have a third column here. So we have the 9 on the other page. We have the 9, which just copies it across onto here. And this one here is an if-then column based on that one time. So for 9 o'clock, if this 9 o'clock column is not empty, write booked. If it is empty, write 9 a.m. So that then copies across that time so that we've got that time booked. Now, so that's what's happening. We actually get the time. Now, the reason why it's when it's blank, when it's booked, when the switch happens, it then goes to booked. Because what happens when you submit the form, it takes the information out of here, so it actually copies this 9 a.m. across to the other form, and at the same time it's copying that information across, it ticks that 9 o'clock box. So when it ticks that 9 o'clock box, this then looks that up, and then this changes because that's changed. So the first event is it takes the information and puts it in the form. Then it returns the switch to say that it's booked, and then this column gets updated. So that's why you need the number there to begin with, rather than I tried initially to do it as available and then to give the number 9 a.m. when it was booked, but the form had already filled out, so I actually had to do it in reverse. You've got to give the number of the time available and then do that. So that's what that's doing. Now, how's that doing? It's working off the button. So let's now go and actually have a look at the actual buttons. So when we actually look at the button at a particular time, we have the title. Now each button is unique. You can copy the buttons across, but you've got to remap them. So there's one further one here, which is I'm going to copy 4. So I'm going to copy the last one down there, which is the last blue one. I'm going to copy that because I'm in Abby, and I built another column through there. So inside there, I'm going to, I picked the wrong one. I actually want to copy that one. Oops, what happened there? I've got a 4, I've got a 430, and I've got another 430 that I don't want. I want to copy the 4 o'clock because it's the right color. I can do it another way. So I've copied that, and I'm just going to drag that down to the bottom, and I'm going to change this one to, it's going to go across to the 5 p.m. appointment time. So this one I've already added a column on, and we'll do it again on another one. Now in this one feature, we show the component when the number 5 is not empty. So that's the one that's the looked up the switch. So if that one's empty, then we show the form. If it's not empty, then we hide that button. So that's what we need to do in that part of the form there. So now we've got a button right at the very bottom, which says, oh, there's my button there. I'm confused with this. There's that button. Oh, I think on the other page, wait a minute, let's just go back to that other page through there. And I've got a feeling there's one of them actually had a switch on that 5 o'clock one that was already there. So I'm going to undo that one and go back and see if that's... There, so the 5 ones there, I'd actually hit that button through there. And it's dangerous because now we've actually got to go in. So that's the front interface to actually show the button the right color. Now I've actually got to come into the form, and this is where it's dangerous to actually set it up before you start doing a lot of the operations. Is one, the title is still reading. We copied the 4 a.m. So I've got to change the time from 4 to the 5 p.m. I've got to now and that's all I've got to do for the title. It's on the right day, it's there, and that's all right. Now the user input is going to switch 4. Now I've got to take that user input and make sure that it goes to switch 5. So that's the one that if that is switched, then we can do the thing. Now this one is pushing across extra data onto those columns. Now this is a fixed field that is just taking that data from there. So what we want to do is we want to delete that one there, and we want to go and get another fixed column information through here, which is the 5 p.m. one, and make sure that that 5 p.m. one points towards the time one. So now we actually have the three things. So I had to go into the time. First of all, I actually had to copy one of these down. Then I actually had to change inside the button. I actually had to change the title of it to the next time that we wanted. So this one was the 5-1. And I also had to change the feature to say that when the 5 was empty, so that related to the other one. So that's relating the other button to that one there. So back up. I've just done that, haven't I? So that's the 5 p.m. has to have the 5 p.m. switch, the 4:30, the 4:30 p.m. switch, and that. So that's at the front, so that I actually have the right number at the front. When I come into the form itself, I've got to change three things. I've got to change the title, the time, which is coming through here. So I actually have to go find the right column where that information is. So that's the 5. I actually have to go into the switch, which then pushes it into the right time, which is the 5 on this one here. And I actually have to go through and delete the last automatic thing that comes through, which is most probably a 4 where I copied it from. Delete that and go and get a new one that relates to the proper field. So this one would be a 5-1 if the previous one was a 4. And make sure that that points to the right column, which is the time column, because we're automatically pushing that across to the time. So those are the procedures through there. And it's messy because you've got to do it on every single time allocation or slot that you actually made. So there's 3. So let's just go into the B booking. Now the first thing we do with the B schedule is that we're going to do the B booking one. So where the form lands up first, because that's where the switch is triggered. So inside here, we're going to add another column, and the column is going to be have a name 5, because we're going to do another time slot from 5 to 5:30. And we're going to do, it is going to be a Boolean, basic column, Boolean. And that is done. That's all we need on there. We need a Boolean, and that's the switch. And as soon as we hit that switch, something happens there. So we can now come into the B schedule, and we can create two new columns. The first column that we're going to create is one called 5, and it is going to be a lookup. It's going to go across and look up the equivalent column in the other one, which is right at the very end, number 5, relation, and we've got to come scrolling all the way to the bottom and choose that one there. So we've associated those two 5, that time period there, together. So that's a lookup, and that's done. And then the third column that we actually have to create is a new column called 5 p.m. And that column there is going to be an if then else. And what it's going to say is if the column 5, this one that we've just created down here, is not empty, then put booked. You could actually just have X anything. If not, then it needs to actually have the time showing in there, 5 p.m. Done. Now, since there's no switch and we actually haven't made a booking at 5 o'clock inside B, and inside B we actually haven't got the button. So therefore we actually have to go back up to the end, pardon me, and we'll cancel out of there. We need to go into B's booking now, or book with B, and we need to just drill down into any one that we want, and we're going to copy the 4 p.m. form, because we're doing on an hour, and so that's pushed down there. So I'm just going to ease that other 4:30 up into there. Now I'm going to touch the form button over here, and I'm going to change that and move that to the new field that we've just created, the 5 p.m. We've now got to go into the 5 p.m. and we're going to say when the switch 5 that relates to that is empty, show the form. Now we come back out of there. Now we come onto the actual form itself. So we pick that there, and we actually have to pick the specific time that we're doing. And inside there, you see this is still reading 4 p.m. So we've actually got to go and pick the right time. So we've now got to go and pick that right column, which is the 5 p.m. column. We've now got to come down, and the user input, which is the switch, needs to go to the 5 column, not the 4. So this is one thing where you copy the thing. Unless you actually take these and point them to the new column, you're going to get the thing doesn't disappear. Because if this still went to 4, this field never changes, so it never disappears. Now the last one is that we're automatically taking the time in the 4 column and we're trying to put it into time, but that's not correct. So we actually have to go and get the new time column, which is 5, and say that one needs to point towards the time column. So now we have all of those ready, we can now test it out. So what we can do is that we'll go to one early on. So we'll go Monday the 27th, we'll go down to 5 p.m, we'll select that, and we'll just go and put some information into there, and we'll get a service there, and we'll do the switch, and we'll submit. Now that button's disappeared. So we were pushing, so this one, when we actually look through here, this column is saying show the component when 5 is empty. So once we filled that form in, that 5 became switched, so it then disappears, so we hide it. So that's what we're using for the logic through there. So now let's just go and look in our form. So we're now looking in B's booking. So first of all, when we go and look in B, we now see that we've got a column 5. So I'm just going to drag this one across and sit him in there, just so that he relates to the other ones through there. And that one there has all of the information that we want. So the B's come across, the dates come across, the other dates come across, the right times fallen into the right column, and we've got the hairdressing thing, and we've got a note. No, we don't actually have a note. There's nothing in there. It's blank. And we got the phone number. So I just dragged the phone number. What was I saying with the phone number? I was going to put it after note because the note was more relevant. And normally we'd actually have, the client's name, and we'll put that before the service. This one's slightly disorganized compared to the other one, but again, you can just move those columns across and adjust to a thing. So the only one that I've got slightly questionable right here is this one, which was done on 8 on Monday the 27th. So I'm just going to untick that one, and I'm just going to delete it from there because it's missing a service. It shouldn't be missing that service, and it's also missing a client's name, and it's missing the phone number. So a lot of things are missing in there. So I just got to go and check to see all of that information is back in there then. So it's now looking on B's schedule, and it's looking at the 8 o'clock appointment on Monday the 27th. So we'll just come back into here. We'll look in Monday the 27th. We should actually have, I'll just go and look in the data through there, and B's bookings. This is still no. yeah, it's still persisting in here, so we need to just refresh that since we deleted it out of the sheet, and that's now gone. So now if we go back into our Monday the 27th, the 8 o'clock is now there. So I just want to test that again to see that I've got all the data in there. So I've got to put the name, I've got to put the phone number, I've got to put, I think this was earlier on because I didn't actually have things required. Now I've actually got those things required, and I turn the switch and I submit. It's disappeared from there, and we go and look in our table into the Bees bookings, and all of the data's come across. Cool. It's nice. So, and all of the rows and headers are actually coming across. So that's how the app works. It's quite cumbersome setting it up, and it's quite wearing to set up. So I did have a bit of a hiccup when I came through in here, and the one that caused me to rebuild the whole form again was when I didn't make this match multiple. So I had to build every single one of these columns, and I got these first two wrong. I've got mixed up with them, and so I've got a couple of dud columns, and I don't think I'm allowed to clean them anymore. So they're sort of there. I should just drag them right to the very end so that they can sort of be forgotten. So that's one of the things if you get a little bit of messy data in there. So I hope that will help you out. Again, it's supposed to be, I've done something which is quite busy in a way. So you can always simplify it and clean it down. But those are the steps that you take. You need the 3 columns. The 1 column in the booking pad where you're actually sending the form data to. You need 2 columns in the other ones, and you need to have a reference to that actual row. So once you've got those, everything is hunky-dory. I'll just drag that through to there. So the icon and everything is normal stuff which you'd go through, and in the normal GlideApps you get the tutorials for that. The only thing unique about this is really the switching coming through, and you can do it in the way that you manipulate it. This one is purely for an outward bound. I'm going to put it out for a small fee, so it's not supposed to be perfect. It's just a template to actually get you started. And again, you've got different colors and things like that. I've got the button which actually says green, but I ended up choosing a blue. So if I go back to a green theme through here, then when I actually come through and I do a switch to green, then when it switches it goes to green. Now that's interesting. Whose is that one? Bugger. And that's him. Okay then. This is one thing that I actually haven't got. So all of those so I've got to go through and on each of those forms, so I hadn't done that, and I've actually built all of the forms through there. So I actually need to go to find a day of where most likely I've got them all. So I've got the 8 right the way down through, and one of the things which I did on there was on that one I've got required, but it didn't propagate through to the other ones. So that's for the 8. For the 8:30 I've got to come into that and push the required. So on all of those 3 things, that and that, I've got to have them required, which is what I want on the app. And so the 9, so that one there, so a bit of repetition through here for doing that, but that was my foolishness for not setting it up. I'll do the rest and have them ready. So I hope that's been of use. If not, I'm in the community thing there, so you can actually just harass me if you find that you're having some difficulties. So I hope you do purchase the app, and I hope it's actually a useful resource for your business and everything. I was thinking possibly another thing that you could think about doing is putting a pay button on it, but I didn't bother building that. I just wanted a simple proof of concept, and I think this works reasonably well, and I think it's pretty robust. But because of the fact that I was doing allocations in such small periods and I was expending it throughout the day, it does take a long time to set up. So for the fee that I'm charging, I think you'd end up spending an awful lot of time to do it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.